Imagine the sting of betrayal as Captain Elena Vargas stood rigid in the pouring rain, her uniform soaked through, facing the Admiral's cold dismissal from the base she'd called home for years. The words echoed like a thunderclap, "You're done here, Vargas. Pack your things and leave." But in that moment of utter humiliation, Elena's voice trembled not with defeat, but with quiet defiance as she whispered her long-buried call sign, a name that would shatter the Admiral's arrogance and unearth a story of unimaginable sacrifice. And as the SEALs around them froze, saluting with tears in their eyes, the truth began to unfold, pulling everyone into a whirlwind of emotion that no one saw coming. Elena had always been the outlier, the fierce Latina pilot who clawed her way up from the dusty streets of a small Texas border town, where dreams of flying were as rare as rain in the desert. Her mother worked 2 jobs cleaning houses, her father lost to the shadows of addiction, leaving Elena to raise her little brother Marco on scraps of hope and sheer willpower. But the skies called to her like a siren's song, and at 18 she enlisted, trading her worn sneakers for flight boots. The F-22 Raptor became her second skin, its sleek lines mirroring the unyielding strength she built inside. She earned her call sign, Ghost Phoenix, during a classified op over hostile skies, where she evaded radar like a specter and rose from the ashes of a near-fatal engine failure to complete the mission. Yet, beneath that tough exterior lay a heart scarred by loss. Marco, her anchor, had joined the SEALs to follow in her footsteps, only to vanish on a raid gone wrong. Elena buried that pain deep, channeling it into flawless missions, but whispers of her pushing too hard, bending rules to honor his memory finally caught up. The Admiral, a stern relic of old-school Navy brass named Harlan Reed, saw her as a liability, a woman who let emotion cloud judgment. He didn't know the half of it, though, and that rainy afternoon would change everything. As Elena marched toward the gate, her duffel bag slung over her shoulder like a weight of forgotten dreams, the Admiral's voice boomed across the tarmac, halting her in her tracks. "You think you're special, Vargas? Heroes don't break protocol." His words cut deep, stirring the ghosts of her past, but she turned slowly, rain mixing with the unshed tears on her cheeks. Around them, a group of SEALs fresh from training paused their drills, sensing the tension like wolves catching a scent. These were battle-hardened men, brothers in arms who had lost their own, including Marco, Elena's Marco, the kid brother whose laugh could light up the darkest bunker. She locked eyes with the Admiral, her voice steady despite the storm inside. "You want to know why I fly like that, sir? It's for Ghost Phoenix, the call sign I earned saving your precious SEAL team, including the one who never came back." The Admiral's face paled, his rigid posture cracking like ice under heat. What secret bond tied her to those warriors, and how could one name unravel it all? Flash back to that fateful night 5 years earlier, the air thick with the metallic tang of jet fuel and the distant rumble of thunder over the Arabian Sea. Elena's F-22 streaked through the blackness, her HUD glowing with targets as she provided air cover for Operation Silent Tide, a SEAL insertion to rescue hostages from a terrorist stronghold. Marco was on that team, his first major op, his voice crackling over the comms with that familiar cocky grin. "Sis, keep the skies clear. I've got your 6 down here." But chaos erupted when enemy anti-air lit up the night, missiles screaming toward her bird. Elena dodged, twisted, her body slamming against the harness as G-forces pulled at her like invisible chains. One missile clipped her wing, flames licking the fuselage, but she refused to eject. Not with her brother below. "Phoenix down but not out," she radioed, her voice laced with grit. Diving low, she strafed the enemy positions, buying the SEALs precious minutes to extract. Marco's team made it out, hostages in tow, but in the frenzy he took a bullet shielding a teammate. Elena landed her crippled jet on fumes, collapsing in the cockpit, whispering his name as medics pulled her free. The SEALs never forgot. They owed her their lives and Marco's sacrifice became legend. But Elena? She sealed it away, flying harder, faster, until the Admiral's investigation cracked her facade. Now, standing in the rain, that past was about to resurface, demanding its due. The Admiral staggered back a step, his polished boots splashing in puddles, as the SEALs murmured among themselves, piecing together the fragments. One of them, a burly sergeant named Jax with a scar tracing his jaw like a map of battles won, stepped forward, his eyes widening in recognition. "Ghost Phoenix, that was you? The pilot who turned the tide that night?" Elena nodded, her lips pressed thin, the weight of memory crashing over her like waves on a rocky shore. Jax turned to his team, voice rough with emotion. "Boys, this is the one who saved us. The one Marco died protecting, his sister." Gasps rippled through the group, fists unclenching as salutes snapped up, not out of duty but reverence. The Admiral, Harlan Reed, felt the ground shift beneath him. He'd flown desk missions his whole career, never tasting the dirt of real combat, but now the human cost stared him down. Elena's story wasn't just protocol breaches, it was a tapestry of love and loss, woven with threads of unbreakable loyalty. Yet, as admiration swelled, a deeper tension brewed. Would this revelation heal her wounds, or expose them raw for all to see? In the hush that followed, Elena's mind raced back to the hospital room where she'd last seen Marco, his hand limp in hers, machines beeping like a cruel countdown. "Promise me, Lena," he'd whispered through the pain, "keep flying for both of us. Don't let them ground you." That vow had driven her, turning grief into fuel, but it also isolated her. No friends, no lovers, just the cockpit's cold embrace. Now, with the SEALs circling closer, Jax knelt in the mud, pulling a faded dog tag from his neck. This was his. He wanted you to have it, but we didn't know how to reach you without reopening the hurt. Elena's fingers trembled as she took it, the metal warm from Jax's skin, engraved with Marco's name and a simple phoenix etching. Tears broke free then, mixing with the rain as she clutched it to her chest. The Admiral watched, his authoritative mask crumbling, revealing a man haunted by his own regrets. A son lost in a similar op years ago, buried under layers of denial. I didn't know, he stammered, voice breaking for the first time in decades. But apologies hung unspoken. Could words mend what actions had torn apart? As the storm eased to a drizzle, the base seemed to hold its breath, the tarmac glistening like a stage set for redemption. Elena straightened, slipping the dog tag under her collar, feeling Marco's spirit wrap around her like a warm wind. The SEALs shared stories then, voices low and reverent, how Marco spoke of her endlessly, calling her his hero, how her air support that night turned certain death into survival. One by one they embraced her, rough hands patting her back, whispers of thank you, echoing like prayers. Even the Admiral approached, his salute crisp but eyes softened. "Vargas, I was wrong. Your file? It doesn't capture the heart behind the heroics. Stay. Fly again, for him, for all of us." Elena hesitated, the pull of freedom clashing with the bonds of brotherhood. But in that circle of warriors she found what she'd lost. Connection, raw and real, a family forged in fire. What choice would she make, and how would it redefine her skyward path? In the days that followed, Elena returned to the cockpit, her F-22 roaring to life with a renewed purpose, the ghost of Marco riding shotgun in her heart. The Admiral became an unlikely ally, pushing for reforms that honored emotional resilience alongside tactical prowess, his own healing mirrored in hers. Jax and the SEALs invited her to their memorials, where laughter mingled with tears, stories flowing like rivers carving canyons of understanding. Elena's flights grew legendary, not for recklessness, but for the quiet strength that inspired rookies to open up about their scars. One evening, under a sunset streaked with phoenix-like flames, she scattered Marco's ashes from the air, whispering, "We're both free now, little brother." The base saluted as she landed, a symbol of sacrifice turned to soaring hope. And in that bittersweet closure, Elena realized true heroism wasn't in the medals or missions. It was in the vulnerable hearts that beat on, connecting us all. But wait, there's one more twist that brought everyone to their knees. Years later, at a quiet ceremony, the Admiral retired, passing the torch with a final salute to Elena, now a major with her own squadron. As she stood tall, the SEALs unveiled a plaque. "To Ghost Phoenix, Sister, Savior, Eternal Flame." Tears flowed freely, a collective release of pent-up grief, binding them in unbreakable unity. Elena's journey from humiliation to honor reminded them all that behind every call sign lies a story of profound human depth, waiting to ignite the soul. And as the crowd dispersed, she looked to the horizon, ready for whatever storms lay ahead, her heart forever alight.